Okay, I think we're live. Here. Let's just get set up. I've got welcome everyone, welcome, and welcome to this new concept. I'm just going to run around all of our sites and make sure that we are actually working. I think we are, which is good. Okay, cool. It's looking like we're live. Great. Okay, this is the first AI Builders Live, brand new concept from us at Enterprise DNA, and it's going to be a little bit experimental today. So hopefully that works with everyone. But look, we just got to navigate this new concept that I want to try, where we just spend a day a week where we really explore. We just explore everything about that's going on, all the opportunities to do new things, and work through a lot of the new tools that we have available now. That's certainly my plan here. Cool. Might actually in the future start this a little bit later because there's a bit of a rush to get here today, but that's all good. Okay, so I'm just gonna just get a link and get our first guest in. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Cool. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm going to sort out our first guest here. Good. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it. So plan for today is I've got our first guest coming on, and I've got potentially another guest a little bit later. I do plan to go for, I don't know, we'll see how we go, like 4, 5, 6 hours. We'll just see. I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to learn a lot of new things myself. And I want others to join in. I want it to be like a show. I want it to be like a radio show where we just collaborate and we chat. I am pretty relaxed about how we run things here. Like there's no set format. There's nothing that we need to do or need to talk about or need to build any structure around. I'm just fully relaxed. This is just going to be a show where we chat and we learn and we explore and we see what's truly possible in this with all these latest tools and new things that we can do. Okay. So by the way, if you want to come on, you can just send me a message. I will send you a link and you can jump on if you want and you can showcase a variety of different things. So I'm just going to message Chris Stanley, who's going to be our first guest, and we'll see if we can bring him in and we can learn a little bit more about what Chris is doing. So I've been chatting with Chris back and forth for a long time now, maybe over a year, and he's been doing some incredible stuff with AI and data. So I'm really, really keen to get into that. One of the other things that I want to encourage is recommendations for who you want on. I will I'm keen to talk to anyone in this space in this particular venue who's doing really cool stuff with AI and with any tool, Copilot, ChatGPT, custom-made software. Just there's a whole lot of new tools that are out, and anything that is sort of business related, that is adding value in business, is creating new opportunities, opening new markets, whatever. I'm into it. I'm totally into it. I want to learn, I want to see, and I want to showcase that to all of our audience, all of those tuning in, all of those listening, right? Chris is joined. Okay, let's bring him in. Chris.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Very well. Hey, thanks for joining. And you are the lucky first guest of AI Builders Live. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on. I was just explaining as I was kicking this off, as we're sort of introducing this concept. I just want it to be like a radio show where you just come in and we just chat. Nothing structured. We just chat about whatever you're seeing, whatever you're doing. You can showcase things. Those who are listening in can also ask questions and maybe even jump on the call as well. So it's a new sort of style, and I want it to, and it's also for me as well. Like I want to use it as a venue to learn about all the latest things that are possible and what you can do, and also showcase that to as many people as I can as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, excited to chat. Excited to share everything I'm working on and learn. Yeah, also whatever everyone else is working on. It's so much these days.
Yeah, yeah. So why don't because we've been chatting for a while, so I know a little bit more about what you've been doing and the sort of journey that you've been on with it as well. But do you want to maybe just give a little bit of background into what you've done over the past sort of year to 2 years and where things are at now? Because I just want
Yeah.
to highlight you showed the most incredible demo of what you've been building like last week, I think. So
Yeah.
things have evolved a considerable amount.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, my background's been in finance and data science. I guess this journey really started back in 2021, before AI really hit mainstream. And I was building a business intelligence tool around integrating Python and SQL into a cohesive data orchestration framework to unlock business analysts from, historically business analysts were like not part of the data pipeline, not part of engineering. They're the last mile of analytics, but they also would just have dashboards and query interfaces, but really no kind of like interface to allow them to do anything more technical. And so, yeah, kind of my journey as a function of this company and even before has been about easy access to data democratization. And that's fit about 3 different products over the past 4 years. So yeah, the first one was this easier data pipeline tool. The second one, which we launched actually the day of ChatGPT going live, was an LLM orchestration tool. And it was like simple content management, content generation stuff. After that, built a focused version of that LLM orchestration product, which was the chat with your database tool. And that was a simple, one-shot SQL query generator. Yeah, I mean, like as I say these things, just imagine that there's this like capability curve, and every single time I'm like trying to build for the capability curve, and then it reaches me where I am, and then I try to go somewhere else, and it's a chase for sure.
Yeah.
And now finally, after being a user of Cursor and all of these agentic coding products, have taken that same kind of autonomous agentic framework and applied it to more technical data workflows. So, giving folks who are non-technical the ability to build whole data pipelines and data models and just start asking that data model questions. And so how this is implemented is with a Jupyter Notebook, with a chat against that Jupyter Notebook, which maintains the state of the project and maintains the knowledge of all the data, and ask it anything you want. And it should rip out that Python or SQL for you and give you your results.
Yeah. And so just to like the demo I saw I think it was last week or maybe the week before, it was this agentic data analysis, which we've all thought was sort of maybe going to come in ChatGPT or in Gemini or within Copilot or whatever, but it's not quite there yet in the bigger platforms. But you're kind of showing proof of concept and that it actually truly works. Like this is truly the direction that things are moving in. What were some of the, I mean, you've obviously had to deal with a lot of challenges and figure those out. What have they been over the past while?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the largest challenges is, particularly in this data tooling space, there's this like classic tooling and capabilities, generate SQL, generate Python, but then like, who is it for and what are they doing at the end of the day? So like, what are the business outcomes that we're trying to achieve with this tooling? I think one of the biggest challenges of building in data tooling space has been like, you could build a amazing piece of software that surfaces the insight to the end user, but they only pay $20 a month for it. Yet that insight generated, $1 million of savings because it facilitated a decision. And so I think a lot of the challenges that I've personally had as a builder and a founder in this space is trying to connect the data and tooling that I build to the actual outcomes of the business. And I think that this gets particularly even more interesting now, because AI can kind of like is that glue on that insight level, before you need a data scientist or you need a consultant to do that for you. but like AI kind of is your consultant. It already knows everything about inventory management optimization. It knows the algorithms for forecasting revenue. It knows all this stuff that you would typically go to an expert for. And so like just my mind has been like kind of racked around, well, what is the difference between a BI tool and a consultant in a year's time or 2 years time or 3 years time? Because I like have to assume that there's a significant amount of obviously these agentic features that the cutting edge folks are going to be implementing.
And so it's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting. Like it's not technology related challenge. It's a go-to-market. It's a go-to-market challenge, isn't it? You can build a better piece of technology than what even big tech has right now, but can you actually compete with them on the $20 a month subscription? It's kind of
yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's challenges all around. I mean, of course, there's significant technology challenges, and building something like this, it's easy to drop your code base and start over. Like, before that wasn't possible to, implement an architecture and then realize that you're on the wrong architecture, and then you have to do a whole year rebuild. Like these rebuilds, only take, a couple weeks or even a month at this point. So like the technology is, yeah, I mean, it's totally accelerated from the product development life cycle. Yeah, I mean, I myself, I'm a pretty technical guy. I'm not a software engineer by formal training or anything. But this latest version of the product I built just my two hands and cursor, and it's been amazing capabilities over the past couple months that it took me to build this thing. Now it's like me and this piece of software and my capabilities, for me, it's, what is next? What's the go-to-market? What are the customer problems? What are all these things, honestly, maybe should inform the first, before you start building something. But I've been in this space for a long time, and I kind of know like what I would want as being one of these users. And so it's really nice to be able to build for yourself.
Yeah. So what's your take? Because there's so many poor takes online, I think, about vibe coding or agentic coding. I like to call it now, because vibe coding, I think, it's great marketing, but it's not realistic for the great application that you want to build. What's your take on it, being someone who could code before this all came along? Yeah. What's your thoughts on how much of your builds now are basically the AI writing it?
Yeah, I mean, my 100% now, like I very rarely will even use tab complete in my IDE. Even a little change, I'll tell the AI to prompt it, just because it's going to just do it so much better and so much faster.
Yeah.
I think like there's still, I've been extremely particular on what I want the AI to implement. So like the systems design and systems architecture is really being implemented by me. But the writing the endpoint and writing the pages, all that kind of stuff is 100% implemented by AI. And I'm in a somewhat of a unique situation where I'm prototyping right now, right? And so like prototyping is I'm trying to accelerate my development as much as possible. So I don't read every line of code, frankly. I do read the PRs and I understand generally what it implements, but there's definitely some black space there in terms of like what's in the code base and what's in my brain. But from the perspective of like getting something out there to customers and getting value really quickly, I think there's no better time to be prototyping and to be using these agentic coding than there is now. And on top of that, it's like there's a significant amount of cognitive overhead that you need to have in your mind when you're using these agentic coding products. Like, I think that it's, extremely intellectually challenging to even keep up with the pace of what the AI is suggesting that you implement, the methods and the technologies to use. People are talking about like multi-agents. I'm like, I can't even keep up with a single agent as is.
I did the same thing yesterday when I was using Gemini 2.5. I can't even keep up with how fast it's writing stuff.
Yeah. So I find it probably pretty difficult to like reason about a world in which there's multiple agents submitting code to a single code base and you're able to rack that within your own human brain. I think that's going to be really interesting nonetheless. We may just, fully, go through the black hole to another dimension, where then you have AI that's QAing the same thing that was implemented. And at the end of the day, the human is, a taste observer and QA tester. We are on like that warped future. We are on a path there. I don't know when we're going to get there, and I don't know what it's going to look like when we get there. But being able to be part of developing a tool, using the technologies to develop a technology similar like this, there's just so much, I call it alpha. There's so much alpha that an individual gets by understanding what these things are possible and capable of. And no better time to do that than now. As I mentioned, I was not, I never held a software engineering role at a company, but it has been the best introduction. I mean, I've been a data engineer and a data scientist, but it's been the best introduction of full stack application engineering that I've ever had before. And I feel, so much more powerful as a product manager and as a founder, just being able to have had that experience of building this application by myself and learning everything about it.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, I think you were ahead of the curve than me, but I mean, I would say I spend the majority of my week now developing software. Like that's what I've become. I mean, I'm not writing any code like you're saying, but I've watched the trajectory of these models just get better and better and better, and they are so good now, so good. I mean, even in the last month, Gemini 2.5 Pro is just, I mean, I use it inside Windsurf. I have Cursor as well, but I've always sort of really liked Windsurf for some reason. I don't know. I think the AI is maybe just a little bit easier to sort of get a handle on. But it is so good now, so good. I mean, even from a month ago, I was having to understand a lot more. I had to understand every single thing it was doing. Gemini 2.5 is just hitting 4 files in one go. Its agent just spits out all this information. You can't even keep up. You can't keep up, but you just see it working. Like you just see the thing working. I've got some views on this. Maybe AI is telling us something, right? Maybe AI with these coding tools is telling us something. It's saying you don't need to have perfect code to have a working application anymore. You just need to have the code that gets it done. I mean, that was always the case, but maybe that's what is actually kind of highlighting more and more and more. I've had this debate actually with my developers at Enterprise DNA. I've sort of said, guys, if it's just working and it's working fast and it's not creating huge issues with the code base, does it really matter? Does it really matter if this code is not perfect or not? Look, I mean, it's going to be a continual debate, but that's kind of where I'm at, like how I'm thinking, coming from a non-developer, non-coding background.
Yeah, I mean, classical technical debt. Like, do you go back and fix the debt, or do you proceed? And a lot of the time, pre-AI, you would never touch the debt because what you were doing in the future didn't depend on that at all. And so it's just you live with the debt, and that's something that you have accepted. I mean, even going forward, I think you just need to generally point these bots at let's fix this technical debt, or let's fix this feature. And again, it'll circle back and do it. But is that the next most important thing for you to work on at that point in time? It really depends on what the business needs. Which I think, you and I, these AI developers here, I think that is what is particularly important that we need to keep an eye on, is that because we have all this capability and because we have all this leverage, it doesn't mean we should necessarily, use it. We should use it with the intent of, solving problems. We should use it with the intent of learning about it. We should use it with the intent of creating greater leverage for ourselves. But, I think that now that a lot of us more are developers, and we love, putting pieces to the puzzle together and watching the system work, the sake of developing for developing is one of those crutches that we really need to get away from, right? Is because you can go into black holes of over iterating on a particular feature that at the end of the day is not important, but you can do it because you can chat with your AI that's going to build the code to do it.
And the other thing that I just keep thinking, right? Okay, so I mean, it's already happening. I'm seeing online that some developers are hooking up Claude code, and they've got, say, I don't know, 10 or 15 of these things all working on different parts of the code base. So when you see that, you think, why would you you can just recreate parts of your application. You can just break them down and then recreate them so quickly now and in the future. So getting hung up on certain things or getting hung up on perfection just doesn't make sense to me in that world. Like if you can just break it down and you can get, and I'm pretty sure this is what Cursor and Windsurf are going to turn into, right? It's not going to be just one agent just working through. It's going to be, you're going to be able to have tabs where you'll be able to do 5, and you'll just be able to generate these changes on the fly. Do most best practices really matter when you can just do that, right? Like it's a solid question. It's a solid question. If it just works, and it works fine, like it's probably fine.
Yeah, it's tough. I definitely do believe in the last mile of perfection testing still in production environments. I think we're talking about, hucking code in to get a startup off the ground is different than, production systems with reliable customers and all that stuff. Those are two, very different worlds.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, everything we're talking about is going to evolve somewhat. And what I mean by that is like, even looking today at who was it? I think Cloudflare just like released a couple of open source projects on authentication, which they admitted they vibe code. They shared the prompts and they shared the repos. I mean, the engineers read every single line of it, but like, Claude implemented this production open source application capabilities almost their standards on the first shot. And so it is really, really interesting at the end of the day. I think another thing which I do love about the, I guess the statistical average outcome or answer that you're going to get from an AI is that's a lot of the time how you should be implementing, whatever feature you wanted at the end of the day. Like my actual human prescription of like how to implement this endpoint or how to implement this feature or something is biased about how I've done this in the past and how I think it should be done. Whereas like if you just throw it to the AI, they're going to pull out the statistical average, and like that's very likely going to be the most elegant solution for what your problem is. Which I love because that's when I learn, right? I learn when it tells me how to implement this stuff, and I'm like, oh, that is an actual better implementation of what I was thinking of. And I'm happy I didn't prescribe it to you because you would have done what I told you.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I don't know from where you've been and to where you are now, but I mean, I have not learned more in my life than the last year. It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Doing things that I've never dreamt that I would be able to do. Building full-on applications. Certainly been a lot of learning to be highly productive now to get to this point, but it's very, very achievable. Very achievable. I just have a few questions, Chris. We have a few questions.
All right.
So there was one here. Great articles this morning. Tales from the field and large-scale agentic development. Sounds like testing is where meets actually restrict agency. I guess that's sort of saying testing is where you need to be very careful.
Yeah, I mean, certainly testing is the last mile of getting things into production. And that is where we absolutely do need to, verify our applications before they're out in the wild into our users. I let AI write my tests. I'm sorry to say it. I think that there's a significant amount of human involvement in writing and verifying those tests, but the just speed at which they can generate this code and test it themselves is good. However, like we do need to be very mindful is that the AI will just pass the tests, right? The AI will write their own ways to pass the tests. If that's their goal of passing the test, they're going to just write pass and they're not actually going to test the test in the end. Like you do need to have oversight on the tests that get into the code base, and they're testing the things that you genuinely want them to test. That should not be a black box for any production application that you're making out there in the wild.
Yeah. So like this testing world is completely new to me. To be honest, I am still not actually across all of the fundamentals of how you even test an application. I guess that's what my developers are still so key for me, is that they know how to do this stuff. But certainly from a prototyping perspective, it's just incredible what you can prototype and how quickly you can prototype it. Which is probably sort of more the end that I'm doing. I'm really sort of setting the direction.
even in a world of prototyping, once your code base gets complex enough, you're going to make a change in one area of the code base. It's going to break the other part of the code base, and you're not going to know what broke it unless you're running that test for every deploy. And so, implementing as I get ready to launch into production and I start making these changes, implementing testing has saved me a ton of time and effort in going to fix bugs, just because of the fact that, you make unintended changes and they have consequences that you just didn't factor. But the tests catch it, and that's extremely valuable.
Yeah. What do you think is happening now and will happen within the data industry over the next few months, years? Have you got any? I mean, you're deep in it, and so What do you think these latest capabilities, these latest changes? What is going to happen? I'll just throw out there that MCP is going to be huge here. I think that the concept of it, where you have a central AI client that can connect to many different apps on the fly. But interested to get your take on where you see this all heading in the near term.
Yeah, I think the data space is so interesting just because there's so many players in the space. You have the hyperscalers, then you have the Snowflakes and the Databricks on top of the hyperscalers, and you have tons of startups from the bottom up that are trying to compete. The entire modern data stack thing. I feel that the data industry has lagged a little bit behind the code gen industry for kind of obvious reasons. Engineers are going to build tools for themselves to optimize themselves before. But I think that we're kind of seeing, again, a compression of bottoms up and top down. So for example, Cursor just released the ability to use Jupyter notebooks, which was a big thing. They did not have that before. And so now you can just, chat with your Jupyter notebook, which is obviously competing very much with the tools that I'm building.
This is within Cursor, so you can use Cursor to chat. And wow. Okay, that's because Jupyter notebooks are on GitHub. Is that why, or is there some different mechanism there?
I think it's just like the Jupyter, running the Jupyter kernel within Cursor, and then from there, the UI as well. You still need the Jupyter notebook user interface, and that's an add-on to VS Code, which Cursor forked, and then they've re-added it since then.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a massive addition. Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, two different levels. There's the engineering components of data, which is data engineering, and I mean, even call it a little bit of data science. I consider data scientists technical enough to, be the ones writing code. And then you have the last mile, which is the business intelligence world. And yeah, I mean, the cursors and the code gen tools are going to come for the data engineers in the sense that that will be part of your workflow. You will be using this to generate SQL code and develop pipelines. And then the last mile, so Snowflake, I just was at the San Francisco Snowflake Summit last week. They introduced their new product, Cortex, which is, again, very similar to exactly the thing that I built. The future is so obvious, right? In the sense that we're all smart people and we know what these technologies can do, and we can interpolate, and we can know what the future is going to look like. And so everyone's building the ChatGPT for your data. So what exactly does that look like? Well, it's a chat interface, and it probably has some capabilities of caching data and storing intermediate results and processing them, and then giving you insights on top of that. And then the sugar on top of that is actual deep research on that data, where the AI just autonomously goes. I think that's not hard for anyone to predict, and that is definitely where the entire industry is going. Now, I think there's been a ton of challenges with any business intelligence tool on well, what is the data model that powers that tool? I mean, obviously, if it's a Power BI or a Tableau, it could be any data model, but that's a little bit of the challenge of selling a tool like that, is because it's well, what is it good at? Does it give you, customer acquisition insights? Does it give you churn and prediction insights? And so I think, honestly, that this AI component into your BI is going to be a little bit of that consultant or expert in the room that you need when you're trying to figure out how to manage this data. And I see a massive unlock on the last mile of data. I see the dream that we've had for so long of self-serve data is actually on the horizon and is actually going to potentially be delivered.
Mm.
And frankly, it's the best people that are in place to do that are the people that already have all of your data, which are the Snowflakes and the Databricks and the hyperscalers. And it's somewhat trivial for them to add on this agentic architecture on top of it. Now, how do they sell that, and how do they go to market with that, and how do they, develop expertise around that? I'm not sure exactly how all that is going to pan out, which I think is the hardest thing about this market right now. Is just like so many people can build these tools, but how do you differentiate, and how do you get in front of your customers, and how do you drive value from it?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I posted about this the other day. There is a brand new way of finding insights coming really, really soon, right? You'll be able to run a deep research type query on a whole lot of data, and it will come back to you with a 20-page report on everything to do with that particular insight. And it might take 5 minutes, it might take 10 minutes, but there's almost no doubt that that's sort of on the horizon. But how do you? Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that I'm struggling with a little bit around all of big tech, right? So historically, Power BI crushed, right, because it had this incredible engine. The analytical engine that they had built, right, was one of the best. And then they had this amazing visualization layer over the top, which they turned into world class. It wasn't originally, but they had Power Query, they had DAX, they had this engine which was incredibly powerful. But that engine has been kind of disrupted a little bit, right? It's been democratized because AI just can do all of that now. And maybe it couldn't do it, say, 2 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago. But now the models are getting so good, like they're not hallucinating around SQL or Python code anymore. Like they're getting it right almost all the time. So how do you differentiate when you're just a box, when you're just an input box? How does Copilot or Gemini or Snowflake or Databricks or Cursor or Windsurf, like how do any of these guys differentiate when you're just an input box?
Yeah, honestly, like I think that we're in this world because we love software and we love the idea of scale, but I really do think it comes to the implementation, and it comes to like who's going to be the people that are selling the solutions, and how does it get incorporated into digital transformation at companies. Like I think that is going to be the most challenging part here, because as I mentioned, right, like the features are obvious. Like what to build here is somewhat obvious. Like just I don't know if you saw this, but BigQuery just released their own like chat with a data canvas capabilities, which is like honestly next level. It looks like the first product that I built with agentic AI in it.
Yeah, right.
It's not too hard to understand like what the differentiation is going to be, because all these products are going to end up looking somewhat the same. I think it's going to be about, what's the use case, how does it get implemented, who uses it, and that is super challenging still.
So like most of the time I default to it's where the data is going to be. It's where your data is, isn't it? Because there might not be any way to differentiate on the front end interaction. So the only way to differentiate is to help with the data engineering and wherever the data is stored, right?
Yep. I've actually thought a lot about this. I think that there is, we've kind of jumped quickly past RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Like it would very easily just like an index search and then throw it into the prompt. But like, I think that there's a significant amount of information and leverage to be generated by, more, I guess, generative data pipelines, if you will. Like if you just like are churning through all of your data at a company and combining it with public data as well, and using that as a way to generate somewhat of a proprietary data set to find signal within your company's data. I think there's a ton of leverage in the data engineering component. Now we say all this and we're like future thinking, but I will say most of the people that I spoke to at this Snowflake conference last week, they're like, we don't even have our data in Snowflake together. So like, we're super future thinking here. But at the same time, like we need to, sometimes bring ourselves back down to earth and realize that like some people still don't even have their data in a single data warehouse.
Does it need to be though? Like my question would be, does Do you see a future where having your data all in the one place and all perfect actually really matters? If these AIs are going to be so smart, aren't they just going to be able to figure it out? Like, if you can have multiple agents running through your data, like they should be able to find a way to figure it out, right?
Totally. Yeah. Let me actually show you something.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you want to do a demo of what you're working on and what you're doing and what you're seeing as well, like, let's do it.
Yeah. So I can show you a couple of things related to this.
Cool. Are you able to share? Yep, add to scene. Let's go. Okay, this technology is actually working, which is good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can see my screen. Okay, so yeah, I'll show you a couple things here just to ground you. Yeah, this is my product. This is Vega. Yeah, we're connected to a couple of databases here just through Snowflake. I've actually 4 databases connected here. And I want to do some data modeling and data engineering. And so, yeah, there's this, yeah, Crunchbase has a predictions data set that has like predictions related to companies, and that's separate off of the company data set. And I just, asked my AI here to like explore the data tables and then suggest to me, a data model. And so here we have the AI going, and here are all the tables associated with this schema. And then it just, it just goes. So this is it gathering all of its information.
So it's building like the metadata of all of the queries it might need to do.
Yep, exactly. And so, before, so this is a re-engineered platform. Before, what we did is we actually like in a deterministic way would query these tables and like put that into the context. But, big enough data table, big enough databases, you're unable to predict exactly what the AI wants. That the strategy this time was down is just give AI the tools it needs and then let it kind of figure out how to go about it. And so, yeah, it just selects from these tables and then, has some errors and corrects itself. And then it creates a notebook. And this notebook is actually, after it did of all of its research, now it is showing you how it's going to join acquisitions, funding rounds, growth predictions, and all this stuff to a data table, and then give you this output. And so, like, here's an example of like the last output that it wrote. I mean, it's a simple join, is a contrived example a little bit, but at the end of the day, yeah, found the join between the acquisition predictions and organizations and suggested it. And yeah, this is kind of how I imagine, I guess, data modeling to go in the future is, these AIs will kind of recursively understand your data model and suggest a data model for you. Yeah, nowhere near perfect yet, but this is, I guess, on the data engineering side of things. I think in a production setting, I would probably still be using, VS Code and put this up to dbt, but this would be if you were wanting like a personal data pipeline, or if you were just an analyst and wanting to analyze it. Now on the business intelligence side, here's where I think, yeah, this tool's better for and has a lot more opportunity is, someone on the finance team that's got a couple data sets and orders and order items, and wants to look at sales trends over time, bar charts, seasonality, and then a sales forecast. Yeah, similar to what I just showed you, the AI will understand all of the data, execute some Python, and this is the result. Is this pretty long sales forecasts. And I'll just scroll all the way down to the bottom where we actually get the forecasts. And yeah, I mean, not perfect, but pretty close to what I might expect from a sales forecast that I would put into a deck, including all the single products that we're expecting to grow and all that jazz. So yeah.
Whenever I see great like examples like this and amazing functionality that is now even possible today, I just think about how much more analysis is going to be done, because so much of this is just untapped. I think I heard someone sort of say like it's untapped liquidity of the amount of analysis you could do, right? Like there's just so many things you could just never do, or just so much friction to get done. There was always some reason why it couldn't be done, but this is democratizing it to a crazy level, and all to me that shows is just this massive unlock of how much more analysis is going to be done. There's probably going to be more work to be done in this space than less, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think like at least analysis and market research is one of those things where yeah, you can kind of throw almost an unlimited amount of compute in it, depending on how cheap that compute is. The other thing I wanted to show you, which is like, I guess, somewhat related to my data strategy and product strategy here, is the yeah, I mean, there's a really, really cool integration of these LLMs and the potential with spreadsheets like Excel. So like in the product, I gotta switch accounts here, but the product has the ability to read and write data to and from Excel, which is just such a cool feature, because one of the biggest issues is getting data from Excel into like a data warehouse, and then vice versa, getting it from a data warehouse back into Excel. I think that giving AI not only the like, don't bring the data to the AI, kind of to your point, like let the AI go to your data and figure it out. So this works by just
one of the things I'll say while you're firing that up is that what I'm seeing is that yes, a lot of data probably very, very much still sits in spreadsheets, but the AI in the MCP era, it is going to be so easy to get that AI into something, into a database, into a more structured format. It's already happening now. When you work in these code development tools, setting up a database table, putting the right rules over it, doing transformations to your data, it will all be just done by the AI. It already can be if you Superbase has a really good connection into Claude right now. This is just the beginnings of what's possible. You can already now just put in a spreadsheet link. It will go and take the data, put it into a Superbase data table, run some transformations over it, and then we'll fire back what the new table looks like. Like it's already possible even now. And so they used to be very high friction, didn't it? Like it used to be quite hard. You used to know how to write SQL, all that kind of stuff, but it's being abstracted away very quickly. It's very early days, but it's going to become so much easier to push data to the right place.
Yeah. I have a couple different accounts here, so I hope this will work, and I hope it's connected to the database. But this is just an example of being able to query the database and then being able to arbitrarily write that data to an Excel spreadsheet, which then you can go in there and you can label it, or you can make comments, and then the AI already gets all that information as well. And so it's kind of a great interface for AI, I believe, is Excel. You can like do a bunch of different things by passing data back and forth between it. But yeah, also another one of the contrived examples I like to do is tell my AI to build me a sunset in in Excel, and it does this by like hallucinating these like gradient patterns. And I mean, it's just like all the things that you could do are just like kind of next level. I mean, obviously there's no business use case for putting a sunset into Excel, but just exemplary of like the breadth of the technology, and it's almost limited just by your creativity.
Yeah. Oh, it's all over the place. I'm just seeing creativity unlock. Anyone who wants to invest the time to see what's possible now, even now, I mean, it's still very early days in the data space. Coding is way ahead, but even you can get into both of those things. It's just incredible what creativity it unlocks. Do you see your work? Like there is huge security concerns here, right? Like no one's going to put their AI into some tool without no large business. I mean, smaller to medium size like myself. I mean, I certainly don't mind where I'd put data. Honestly, I'm not worried about it. But large organizations are going to be incredibly careful about this.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing out? I mean, the big players are obviously going to stress this as such an important part of their solution, as they always do. But do you see any other way that sort of plays out?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's definitely going to be a huge selling point on some of these big players is the ability to keep all your data in one place. You know, I'd even seen this before AI, trying to build a data product to integrate with new customer data to put it on your servers was almost a no-go for anyone like, you know, north of, you know, 10 million bucks in revenue. So it's definitely a huge challenge for any upstart. I mean, in retrospect, I will say that like it almost makes much more sense from a startup and potential acquisition perspective to be developing strictly on a platform. So like be developing on AWS and sell through the AWS marketplace. You can get just automatically passed by all of AWS's security profile or security concerns, and then AWS maybe buys you, right?
Right.
Obviously, you limit your market when you do that, but it is definitely an accelerant to getting into enterprises to being successful. Now you have total vendor lock-in in that case, which is exactly what AWS wants. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to make whatever decision is best for your company. I also do think that there are, you know, natively tons of like multi-tenant companies, like a bunch of companies that have services on AWS and GCP. And so there's inevitably going to be some data integration or kind of, you know, platformed company that will exist for being able to sit in between all the different companies. So definitely a path of least resistance, but if you're not, you know, building natively for a company, you know, there's still a world for you.
Enterprise in this space feels hard to break into, but do you also, for the security is just one of those reasons, but also you're going to be competing against these big guys who will price it however they need to win, basically. That kind of feels obvious, but this also must unlock a lot for the lower end, right? Like,
totally.
Power BI was an incredibly successful tool, but it was still very hard for a small organization, maybe 20 to 30 people and under, to really master and roll out successfully. Truly, maybe because the even though it was far easier than what came before, it was still quite a lot to learn, quite a lot to manage, etc. So this to me is democratizing. I mean, just like it is with everything at the moment, but it's just democratizing this sort of stuff for any business, really, any business.
Yeah. No, I think certainly, smaller businesses are going to be served, you know, with entirely AI solutions. You know, before you would need a data consultant to set up a modern data stack or something like that. And that would be, tons of money and tons of time. And it, you know, honestly, a lot of the time wouldn't make sense economically for a company to do something like that. But those economics become much more favorable. Those projects become implemented, much more easily and much more quickly. And it does push, you know, access to data for lower companies, makes it more accessible for sure.
Where do you see you playing in this space?
Yeah, you know, I've held opinions on both sides of the house. I've been in this world long enough. On the pro enterprise side, the data challenges and I guess the juice to squeeze is just so much more juicy because, you know, higher top line, higher costs, there's so much more money to save. And so the IT investment and those savings and revenue optimization are much more easier to come by. And on the lower end of the spectrum, you know, a lot of the times if you don't have enough, I guess, customers or money or anything, or even data to analyze, it just doesn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time. And so I think that, you know, both of those observations still ring true. I think that if I were to be a betting man, it opens up opportunity on the lower end of the market, strictly because of, you know, what we were discussing, that, you know, the enterprise is going to be attacked by the hyperscalers that already own the data and everything. And the lower end of the market, where you have, you know, maybe no Snowflake or no Databricks or no database period, you need to set up a database, do a data model, give analytics, and the full suite. And so there's definitely more opportunity with regard to that in how this technology enables it. We're talking like about full suite analytics, but like, in enterprise, again, you can get so incredibly granular and specific on a problem, and there's a lot of money to be unlocked there. So for example, just like financial reconciliation, if you can reconcile every single transaction at an enterprise company at scale with AI, that is just going to unlock money and unlock savings. So obviously it depends a little bit on these cases and how you're applying them. But I think for the general markets that you and I are thinking of, which is more kind of general analytics, insights, the unlock for startups in the lower end of the market seems to be at least a little bit more favorable for startups.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point on both counts. One of the things that I've believed for some time now in this latest era is that there is so much data which is not analyzed. Still so much data. There is, all this is doing is unlocking, it's gonna make what you're currently doing much better, but it's going to unlock all this information and data that you just couldn't. You just didn't have the resources. You didn't have the money to go and analyze it. Just so much more analysis is going to be done. So much more. Like even some of the tools like I've tried to implement in our business historically, I've always found them like, for example, website analytics, right? Like tracking what someone is doing at all times on their website, for example. I mean, that's insanely valuable to so many people, but that has historically been very hard and expensive to actually do for most businesses, other than that very, very top tier, right? But that's just one simple micro example where it could truly be possible, right? You could be in an AI client, and through the MCP connection to that particular tool who is analyzing that click stream or whatever stream it is from the website, you'll be able to pull that in, and then you'll be able to compare that to your conversion rates and all this great stuff that was just unachievable for most businesses historically. That's just one example.
It's so, I mean, it's that implementation makes like sense to me, like an MCP and a claw. But like the thing that really gets me is like, I actually don't know what this platform looks like, to be honest. Like, I think the data acquisition is non-trivial. Like, to your point, like implementing that pixel tracking thing is somewhat non-trivial. And then like storing and structuring that data, it's not, just a call to an MCP server, because that's going to get you a JSON blob. But then what do you do with that JSON blob? Are you going to call that JSON blob every single time? Like, I think there's still a significant amount of, I guess, tech to be built for this like kind of agentic data layer that we don't actually have. We don't know what it looks like yet.
Right.
And like, I think that is so interesting. Like you just gave like a clickstream example. I've been thinking a lot about like what's like third-party data that you could buy to augment company analytics a lot of the time. And like, what SaaS founder would not want perfect analytics on their competitors, like what they're bidding for on all of their performance marketing, all their job descriptions, everyone that they hired and everyone that that's left the company. I think there's like a significant amount of this like third-party data that companies should be incorporating as well. In addition to your point, which is just generating first-party data that's relevant for your own business. Yeah, there's a huge opportunity to figure out like, what data can I be gathering? Should I be acquiring? And how can I use it? And like, unless you prompt AI or ChatGPT with that specific question for your business, like there's no product that's really selling that right now, I don't think, other than obviously like a human consultant that's an expert in AI data analytics.
There's got to be an opportunity in curating custom data sets and then making them available via these clients. Like,
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So that instead of every company having to go out and source this information themselves, you could be sort of like a central hub for key information that a certain sector might want. Like, for example, and this is actually a massive unlock for existing companies too, right? Like those, for example, like just an example that comes to mind is, those companies that go and calculate retail sales in supermarkets, right? Like that's a truly valuable custom data set to a lot of people that people have bought in the past. But now you might be able to sell it through an AI, connection, right? Like you could maybe build an MCP server. By the way, I don't really understand MCP servers that well right now, but I kind of get the concept. You could throw it in there, and then the AI analytics tool can go and grab that and compare that against your own custom data. Like, I mean, that's an exciting future when that actually becomes real, isn't it? But an opportunity too, a massive opportunity for those who position themselves well for that future.
Yeah, that data sharing, it is the data sharing marketplace is a very good idea for a lot of this stuff. I think it's like the, you may be right. The MCP server may be the right server thing, but the thing that gets me is the client side. On the MCP side, you're going to be using Claude. But yeah, at the same time, like all this discovery through these agentic platforms is where you're going to be seen and observed. And so it's kind of building for that future. That's the hard thing to somewhat predict, is like, what are the right things to build for? Am I integrating with Cursor as my primary client? Yeah, I love that.
There's going to be my feeling is that there's going to be an app store for the agentic era, right? Like where you can.
Yeah,
I mean, I need to skill up on the MCP protocol, or I need to skill up to know exactly what this looks like. So forgive me if I'm a bit off the pace. But there's going to be some sort of marketplace, right? Where, I mean, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT just launched something. I was going to maybe in the next few hours, I was actually going to spend some time digging into it. It's just like, you want to be on the AWS store, you'll want to be on the ChatGPT store, you'll want to be on the Claude store, you want to be on the Cursor store. I was even thinking the other day, have you heard of Lovable as well? Like these guys should start a marketplace of making it incredibly easy to connect in all these AI tools that you can connect into your apps. Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to do it. It would strengthen their position immensely as a future AI client.
Yep. No, I think all these platforms or products that look like they're going to be platforms will become platforms. I don't know if you listen to Ben Thompson or read Ben Thompson's Trajectory, but
not recently, but I know I've definitely run into his content in the past.
He had just interviewed Michael Terrell, the Cursor founder, and they've given early indication that they do plan to become a platform, and they do plan to have Cursor Marketplace or whatever. Yeah. So like, me as an entrepreneur, as a small guy, I look at that and I look at Cursor just did Jupyter in your notebook. And so like, what's the data layer for that going to be? Well, probably some MCP server to integrate into Cursor to make your data available within that Jupyter notebook in a trivial way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just a SQL connection to Snowflake. I think that's the, definitely going to be platform.
These new marketplaces are going to open up so many opportunities. It's why, like when you really dig into this stuff, and then I don't know what you think, but when you then hear all this clickbait stuff about the AI job apocalypse, and then I'm just thinking there is going to be these new global marketplaces where so much opportunity is going to get created, so many revenue opportunities, so many ways to connect to new users and to new customers. Like, there's just opportunity everywhere I look. I mean, think how big Cursor is. The most incredible story, right? Within a year, they're up to 500 million ARR. Within almost a year, probably a little bit more, but
yeah.
I mean, and they're an absolute rocket ship. And think about how many users are in that ecosystem now that if they create a marketplace, you could access. I mean, it's going to become like Shopify, where there's this entire ecosystem of entrepreneurs making revenue and profits out of it.
Yep. No, I think it's certainly super exciting, but also like super unsettling at the same time, because people's jobs are changing. I mean, I feel this. I feel this myself, of like the different ways that like this stuff is coming to live and to be. But like, that is the exciting part about it, is like there are all these other opportunities that will become and will be there. And it's got to stay on top of the tools to understand where that's going.
Oh, look, I'm the same. I mean, online learning, like that's what we historically, we're really focused on, right? Like, I don't think there's I mean, that would be in the top five places getting disrupted the most, over the last like couple of years and into the future, right? So, there's definitely disruption, but there's things coming. Like there's going to be so many new ways of doing things that
Yeah.
I would say they're just emerging right now. They're just emerging, but I think they're going to be big. I think they're going to be really, really big, right? Like if you've democratized the ability to create software by probably 10 times, like it's seriously become that democratized compared to what it was before, like, I can't even write a line of code, and now I'm building a SaaS app. Like, it's just crazy. That's an entirely new ecosystem of people who are looking for tools. They're looking for apps. They're looking for ways to be more productive. They're looking for ways to sell their app. It's just ecosystems blossoming everywhere, and they're only really just getting started if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, like your journey of being in the education space and now being in this AI developer space where like the AI is your educator. It's kind of like this world where like the tool is a huge component of like the full life cycle of that job itself. Like you're living the software engineering job, but you're learning about it from the tool itself and it's teaching you. There's this really nice prosumer circle that at least the code dev, code gen tools have been able to implement. And like, I'm trying to do a little bit of it with this data analysis, data engineering tool. It shows you the Python, it executes the Python, it works with you. I think like also there's been a lot of like conversation about, code is, you don't need to know how the code runs or how the code executes and everything like that. But I'm starting to like think that you're going to have a lot more people knowing what code does and how it runs because of the way that these applications, they work, right? They're code gen apps. Instead of like, executing something, it generates an API call to execute that thing. And so like actually understanding how that works is going to be the job of more people going forward, I think.
Yeah, like it's kind of just like a calculator, right? Like yes, you don't need to know how every line works, but you can throw it into any AI tool and it can tell you in 2 seconds, so it's like I've been saying this for some time, as I've gotten into this myself, is that there is nothing even now which detracts from having to know what is happening. Like you need to know what's going on. You need to know how to, you're going to have a much better experience if you know how to architect an overall good solution. You know how to direct the AI to do exactly what you need. You don't need to be absolutely explicit, but you need to at least direct it. I still don't see that going away anytime soon. It's not like you're just letting these AI runs and you don't know what's going on. But I still don't write any. I don't really write any code anymore. I just, even a tiny change, I'll just ask the AI to do it, and then they can sort of check. They can check the file, make sure that it's all formatted correctly, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a massive unlock, really. When you only need to sit above it and be an architect.
What are you seeing from your audience as like the most kind of interesting things that they want to learn more about? You've been really, really good about pioneering these tools and these capabilities. I love following your content. What are you hearing from your audience of people?
I think everyone's like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think we're influencing some. But I think there's a lot who just aren't willing to adjust, aren't willing to change. That's kind of, it's kind of one of the reasons why I've been doing my podcast with Brian to really get the word out. It's also why I want to do this now. Like I'm pushing this. I'm saying, look, there is a lot changing. There is a lot of noise around what you can do, what you can't do. I want to get out what's reality, like what's possible. I like pontificating about what's going to be possible too. I do like doing that, but there's some incredible stuff you can do now, like right now, that I don't think enough are getting into. This is how, if you're, I don't know, like I don't know if social media is reality, but like sometimes I go on there and I see posts and then I see all these comments underneath, and I just shake my head. I'm going, come on, like the world is changing. If you're seriously concerned about the AI taking your job, well, this is the time to start learning all these new things, like acquiring all these new skills, because it's absolutely incredible what you can do now. It's honestly unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm trying to put out there. But I don't know, like it's very hard for me to tell if it's really getting through. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I think I was kind of ahead of the curve, and that's
Yeah.
always a tough place to be. But on the other side of the coin, like, these new ways of doing things with AI, they don't require, and I didn't even really encourage like structured learning around it. Like I encourage actually just doing it. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So it's a tough one to know. Yeah, it's almost like we need to just be the spark. Like I'm trying to just be the spark of, you need to get into these tools, because this is the new wave. This is the new opportunity creator. This is how you're going to become more valuable in your organization and your career. So, those are sort of the messages that I'm going to keep saying and keep doing. And like, I have no doubt that if you invest the time and use these tools and extend yourself and learn new skills, you are going to be the most valuable person in your organization. No doubt about it. Right.
Yep.
Like this is where all the value and productivity gains are going to be made in the near future.
I'm in, so I'm based in San Francisco. It's, man, just the right place to be in, to be doing all this stuff, because everyone is an optimist here to some extent. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like this world where people are building for 2 to 3 years out. And like everyone is just somewhat acceptant of the fact that the technology that they know today is the worst that it will ever be. Mm. And like, maybe this product today is not going to serve a customer base for whatever reason, but like maybe tomorrow it will, or maybe in a year it will, or whatever reason. And we're lucky to have this whole venture capital system that's willing to invest in this and willing to make it somewhat of a reality. But like, stepping away from that world, stepping away from all my optimist friends, there is a significant amount of AI tech out there that just sucks. Right. And like, I get it. And like, maybe you don't ask the prompt correctly and it doesn't do what you want it to do. And then you close the tab and you move on to the next thing. It's like a significant amount of, like you need to somewhat believe it and you need to use it and you need to, figure out that like maybe the prompt that I asked wasn't the right thing and there is a better way to get the answer out of the AI that I wanted.
Yeah. This is a quote from Gary. I mean, it's almost like a cliche at this point, but it is like, it's so true. It's like, that's exactly what I've seen for years, like the last couple of years, right? Like is the trajectory of this technology is that, you see this everywhere, and it's become this massive cliche, but it's honestly true. It's honestly true. It is different. Like I sort of relate. Okay, you go back to the internet. You could get away with not using the internet for like a decade probably, and you were probably going to be fine, right? Like yes, some sectors were more impacted than others, but it kind of feels like this is such an all-encompassing technology that hits sort of every single aspect of how you actually get stuff done, that it just doesn't feel like you're going to have that kind of leeway in this, right? Like you kind of got to get on board, or you are going to be left behind.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about it. You have like sales and marketing. I mean, automated sales agents, self marketing. You have auto-generated marketing content that's going to self-improve. Yeah, that's on the income side of the house. On the expenses side of the house, you have engineering and product development and product management, and like, yeah, that's already been changed. And then at the top, you have executive leadership and management, and like, people say that these creative things are the things that the AI is not going to be able to do. But I mean, honestly, I believe like once we have, the data layer of a company, there's probably going to be no better CEO than like an AI CEO that can see all and read all and be somewhat unbiased on their recommendations. I think you're right there. It is impacting almost everything. I am somewhat of a, I'm a little bit of a skeptic. And so my obvious reaction a lot of the time is to negate things, but it's hard to negate that.
Yeah. But, I actually, I agree with all those things that will happen in the next like 3, 5, 10 years. Like almost no. Anyone who's bet against AI progress in the last 2 years has just been made to look very, very silly, right? So I'm just not betting against the progress anymore. Or I never have, but I'm not going to bet against it. But I see all of that as positive, right? Like I see, okay, so you're now creating a foundational layer in your business around your own custom data, around this, let's just call it like a sort of layer of intelligence, which maybe gets better every model increase, right? The team around that just gets propelled forward, gets propelled higher in what they can achieve. Like, yes, your AI data layer might be able to provide better insights that that maybe a CEO could get, but you still need someone who can like set the direction of the organization and to get out there and market the organization and build relationships with key stakeholders and customers. It's just they're getting better information, they're getting it faster. Like to me, it's all positive. It doesn't actually detract from anyone or anything. Like, I just actually see it as a massive aggregator personally. Like, and look, I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. I don't want to live in fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like, what most news organizations will want to push to you, right? Like, I mean, who wants to live like that? Yeah, I certainly don't. I just see it as mainly positive.
And then you have greater leverage at these companies, and then you have ideally, better profits, better salaries for employees because they're higher leverage. They can do more with less. It's honestly, for me, it's kind of this. I understand it in the company level. It's hard for me to wrap my head around how the macro pans out, right? Like, if there are so many of these more, I guess, functioning, profitable companies, does that mean that the stock market just goes up? That's actually what a lot of people are saying it will happen. So
well, one of the, like, if you just look through history, and this is look, I might get a little bit of this wrong, but every time we've lowered the friction to interact or to transact with other companies, other countries, other, globalism has shown that it's a propellant. And so to me, this is just that next level. It's lowering the friction even more. Like, you'll be in these AI clients and you'll want to grab some data from some company. You'll be able to buy it right within the client. There'll be maybe in a micro transaction or maybe some other means. Like that lowered friction at that economic and commercial level is just going to be better for everyone, I think. It's going to create new entrepreneurial businesses. It's going to create new opportunities for existing businesses and incumbents. No doubt it's going to be incredibly disruptive for a lot of companies too. But that's the way the system works.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about. I think about, startup opportunities a lot of the time when you think about the Coase theory of the firm, like why the theory of the firm exists. It's because to minimize transaction costs. If you didn't have the firm where you're aggregating all of this, I guess, labor, everyone would be a sole proprietor in their specialist environment and transact with everyone. Maybe there is actually a case for, smaller entities to become larger kind of components of the economy and to be able to transact in much easier ways. We see, I see some stuff. I mean, this is like what consulting firms, are really, at the end of the day, they're like a component of a company that doesn't need to be embedded within the company, but they transact with the company because they provide some of the strategic advice. And they don't need to, be within that one company because they're not 100% utilized all the time, and they can be better utilized if they're able to spread themselves out throughout the economy. It's like, what is the world of, people talk about like the, $1 billion solo founder, but like, what about the data consultant that's bringing in $2 million a year because they're able to, leverage the tools in the right way, and they have a small book of clients, and their AI bots are just doing their bidding on their behalf, right? Like, I think that is a world that we will live in where a dude is able to like figure out what that stack looks like and, satisfy a bunch of customers and, be a huge, obviously make a lot of money off of the leverage that they're able to produce by the right configuration and the right clients.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with that future. I mean, AI just gives everyone a lot more agency, right? Like historically you needed to, to get a lot of your business going, you needed marketing, sales, you needed all these components, right? To sort of get it going. But I think a lot of those are being somewhat democratized, and you'll be able to plug into systems that will be able to do that much quicker for you. So the story might be about the one person $1 billion founder, which I think is going to be very difficult to actually achieve. But
the moment the single founder is able to like bring in a couple $1 million, you hire someone else, right? Like it's
yeah. I really find that hard to believe. But anyway, honestly, anything's believable at this point. The story might also be is the millions of people making, solo founders making $100,000 or $200,000 a year. Like that might be the story too, and might actually be the more likely story that will play out with all these new markets and ecosystems opening up. Like, a huge market that has opened up is these vibe coders, right? Like that's sort of the market that I'm very kind of invested in. Is like there's 10 times the amount of developers now that need tools, that need help, that need assistance, that need go-to-market strategies. Like it's just an entirely new market that is waiting for entrepreneurs to plug into and assist with, right?
Yeah, I was at the Snowflake conference, met the founder of DLT Hub. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like a
DLT Hub.
It's like a ELT is Python code, lightweight Python code to move data. And the chart was flat until recently, and it just went whoop.
Really? So it's crushing.
Well, that's just and it's because these vibe coders, want easy abstractions to work with, and that's what he provides. He provides these like real easy interfaces for people to move data between Postgres and Snowflake and whatever it is. But I mean that's the market. The market is like, what are these tools?
Yeah, I mean, that's so like another perfect example is Superbase. Like Superbase is probably the best example of this. I bet you that they showed this chart. They're sort of a back-end database for Lovable, and they've grown like crazy for that. And I think they're also connected into Bolt now. But they were just edging higher slowly, like very, very slowly. And then all of a sudden, boom, just like the growth chart is just absolutely exponential. Total rocket ship, raised at $2 billion the other month, raised $200 million. I mean, you want to try and build a product like that, honestly. That would be nice. That would be very, very nice.
Yeah.
So I guess, and I'll let you go shortly. I know we're taking up a lot of your time, but I really, really appreciate it. So it feels, one of the things the opportunities that I see, particularly from an entrepreneurial point of view around software, right? Like it's becoming increasingly difficult to sell software like you did historically. Maybe you ran some Google ads, maybe you ran some social media ads, things like that. These are way too expensive now for the traditional piece of software. Way too expensive, way too competitive. So it feels like this integration piece is the better strategic decision in a lot of cases. What do you think about that?
It's something I think about a lot. Like, I started this company when you could just, knock on enough doors and talk to enough people and be successful and then grow by word of mouth. But like the platforms are becoming so integrated, like you really do need a better path than, knocking on doors and talking to people and buying ads. I think you can assume from an ad perspective that like you're not the only person in the market and any arbitrage is going to get taken away. And so you need to build unique, durable growth mechanisms. And it doesn't have to be a fancy hack, or it doesn't have to be this like amazing, product integration. One of my friends said it, well the other day. It's like, well, you need to find what you're good at as a founder, as a single entrepreneur. So there's a component of this, which is founder market fit. But there's another component of this is like, well, what do you like doing? Like, what do you want? How do you want to put yourself out there? And he gave an example of this, woman founder that was, building a healthcare tech thing, and she just loved going to these conferences in the Midwest of the USA, and then just like taking people out to dinner. And that was how she got all of her business. She went to these conferences. She was a mom. She had kids. She, probably didn't want to go to the conferences, but she was like really good at going to the conferences and really good at talking to all the folks there, take everyone to dinners. And that's how she grew her business. But it was because it was, genuinely something that was a differentiator for her and she was really good at. And so like, I think it is, where's your founder market fit? And I mean, Sam, you have amazing, personality on LinkedIn and a personality in all these channels. And like, you obviously have an amazing kind of founder market fit for this education. And I think that, people need to look deep into themselves and figure out, well, how are they, somewhat different in buying and selling this? Is it content? Is it talking to? I think a lot of the time it's who your customers are. Before you even like think about what's the product you want to build, it's kind of like, who do you want to solve problems for? And like, how does your alignment fit against that? And so I think like your first, comment was, all these mechanisms are arbitraged away, and like, yeah, that's true. But it's like, kind of, what do you want to do? And what's your specific advantage as a person? And, that's a really hard question, frankly. I wish it was easier than like, well, go buy ads on Reddit. I wish that was the answer. But everyone is so smart and everyone has all the same ideas that the arbitrage is just going to get taken away really quickly if there were anything there. And it really has to come back down intrinsically, like, what's your own personal advantage in the thing that you're doing?
So true. So true. I love that strategy of going to conferences, because the more that I'm doing online, and any online strategy at the moment feels much harder than it once was, because everyone's just like asking AI, what should I do online to make sales? And, there's just like this level of it's so hard to find, like how you mentioned the arbitrage is a good terminology for it. It's so hard to find that these days, because the AIs are just helping anyone and everyone, build the product, but also like market the product and be strategic about what they do with the product. So the face-to-face thing is actually a damn good strategy, right? Like just actually meeting people, that is a differentiator, just because it's not something that AI can help you achieve like it can digitally.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, obviously it needs to be great for your business model. Yeah. You can't be selling $20 a month subscriptions and shaking hands and kissing babies at conferences, but yeah, there's a whole combination of like go-to-market tactics that you need to really consider depending on what you're selling and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, the times are so interesting because, to your point, like, everyone is asking ChatGPT the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we call it a day? Really, that's a good hour and a half interview to start off AI Builders Live, and I really appreciate the insights that you've brought. To the session. Really appreciate it. And I mean, if you have any final thoughts or final things about patterns and all the things you're building, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone that's watching this, visits the website, and if, what I'm building resonates with you, please reach out to me. Yeah. My email is just chris@patterns.app. Sam, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on this. Like, I kind of want to come back on somewhat of a regular basis if you're willing to have me. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like the delta between our conversation now and our conversation in a month and 2 months, I'm really curious about what that's going to look like. My own attitudes on all this stuff has been rapidly changing and evolving. It's like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unsettling as a person to like have this thesis about your product, your vision, or your business and where it is and like where it's going to be. And then for that to just change by the capability. And so like, needing to, resonate with other people in the space and talking with other people and figuring out, what people are working on. And, you've definitely been pioneering a lot on my feed. So thank you so much, and keep the content coming.
Yeah, no worries. Like I would say, we're in a similar position, honestly. Like Enterprise DNA, we're evolving. We're evolving. I believe that we have to evolve, and we need to become something different and something more, and that brings with it challenges as well. And another reason why I started this up was because I just want to immerse myself in this and talking about this. And sometimes when you're just posting on LinkedIn and it's sort of that one way, you get stuck doom scrolling on LinkedIn, and you get stuck doom scrolling on these platforms, and then you think, God, am I crazy? Am I absolutely crazy in my views and my thoughts? And I don't believe I am, but I think I just need to I want to surround myself in a way that I'm immersed in it, So I agree. I mean, I'd love to chat very
Yeah.
regularly, honestly.
No, I think that's super important. And as I mentioned, I'm so lucky to be surrounded by all my buddies and everyone here in San Francisco working on this stuff. Like, it's what keeps me sane and what keeps me going, because I mean, it literally is insane stuff that we're looking at, like language completion on a screen, right? Like writing Python code. Who would have thought?
I know. I mean, I keep saying, I've been saying this for months. Like, the most insane thing to me is I am building apps with my voice. That's the most insane thing. Like, I'm just talking to my computer. I'm not even typing. I'm just talking. I'm like, I want this feature. I want this feature. I want this feature. I'm just going, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah.
All right, Sam.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. We'll be in touch. Appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.